Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa, Mujer? Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. En ¿Qué pasa, Mujer? Estamos aquí todos los viernes a las 4 de la tarde. Otro mes, otro domingo. Yo sé que pronto los muchachos regresan a la escuela, si no es que ya empezaron a ir a la escuela. Entonces, hoy solamente estamos yo y Maddie. We're going to go ahead and bring Maddie on so we could go ahead and get started with our topic. Maddie, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿qué pasa, mujer? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien. So Maddie y yo ya llevamos como 3 años haciendo este show. So it's been about 3 years that we've been doing the show. I think it was sometime in August or September, if I'm not mistaken. So it has been that long. It doesn't seem that long, but it really has. So Maddie and I both live in Virginia. I live in Hampton. She lives, I think, Chesapeake. So I had the we don't see each other a lot, but I mean, every Sunday, definitely. But I had the pleasure on seeing Maddie this past week at an event that she invited me to. So it was nice seeing you in person.
Yes, thank you. Thank you always por decir presente. So thank you for being there. It was beautiful to see you and spend some time with you. So
Oh yeah, because if you're in Hampton, I'm like, oh, I'm there if I can. So it was cool. So we know that. So today we're going to kind of be talking a little bit about problems and solutions. We face them every time. We see our children go through it, our spouses, our friends, our family members just kind of go through these situations, and I think they happen all the time. And so what methods do we have to kind of just kind of think it through, troubleshoot the situation? I know for me, I tend to kind of like do some self-evaluation, think about myself, think by myself, and then I will possibly go on Google sometimes, just depending on the situation, or I'll definitely talk to family members or friends that I trust. Not too much and not too many, but ultimately, and even after I talk to somebody else, I will come back to self and then kind of like evaluate the situation. I'm not big. I know some people write down, pros and cons. I don't do a lot of that. I do it, a lot of it is just mental. That's how I do my mental decisions. What about you, Maddie?
I do have to say I'm an overthinker. I overthink everything, every decision that I'm gonna make. I've learned as I've gotten older not to make emotional decisions, and I try, but again, I always say, I'm a crybaby. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and when I feel a certain way, everybody knows how I feel. I can't hide it. So I have a hard time with that, but I've learned. I try to tell myself out loud when I'm feeling stuff. Do not make decisions at the moment because might not necessarily be the best decision. But I do overthink things. I will sit on things for a little while before I make the decision, to make them.
Yeah, I lately I've started to notice a lot about my personality, and it just is triggered from the fact that I'm an only child. So I think that's why I do a lot of like just self-evaluation and just like quietness before I make a decision. So we came up with some different scenarios. So we're just gonna not that it implies to us, but we just kind of came up with some scenarios, and hopefully our audience will be able to interact. But if not, that's fine. But we're just gonna, a lot of the times there's single mothers, married couples that have to make decisions, and even being married as an individual, you still have to make decisions even though you're married, right? Because you want to still be fulfilled as an individual. Of course, not to hinder or jeopardize the relationship, the household, the family. But I think it's, once you get to a certain age as a female, couple of months ago, I was talking to a lady, and she had been married for a long time, and she felt like she kind of like lost herself in the relationship, and she never was able to do what she wanted to do, so she was considering, leaving the marriage. And I said, well, you can still do you and stay married. But I think some of us may have a challenge doing that, especially like Maddie. I'm sure you would can relate to it by being with someone for such a long time. How do you still pursue your particular passions so that you don't become frustrated, or that you're 70 or 81 one time and you're like, oh my God, I never got to write a book. I never got to go on stage and, do poetry because I sacrificed all these other things. I think that's the purpose today, is to encourage everyone and encourage ourselves that you still can do life, without jeopardizing other things. For me, a lot of it is balance. As you guys know, I use my planner, I use a paper planner and a digital one as well. But with my paper planner, at the end of the month, I can kind of see where my time went, maybe where I need to do a little bit better next month. And I think it's just, again, like we always say, giving ourselves grace. And also as we give advice to other people, whether it's to our children or family members that we might have. So, Maddie, I'm going to let you lead with our first scenario.
Okay, so I think also I wanted to piggyback a little bit before we get into our questions, on, being in a place. I think we get content with being in the same place and doing the same thing. And sometimes, it's hard after you've been doing the same thing for many years to change or to allow yourself to want something different. Also, when you spend a long time with somebody, you're not you may find yourself not the same person that you were at the beginning of the relationship. So we say, we have to give ourselves grace because we do grow as individuals. Our needs may change, and we need to make space for that. So having said that, I guess we'll start with the questions, kind of like mommy guilt versus me time. I know I'm a mommy of three, and for the longest it was my identity. Like if you ask me, who are you? Oh, I'm a mom. Like that's the first thing that would come to my mind. And I think, I still do sometimes. Like when you ask me, what am I or who am I? Like the first thing that's going to come to my mind is my kids. I identify as that, but I, again, as I've gotten older, and we see, because it's like when we think when we're young we think that we have time for everything. We have time. And then here I am 22 years later after having my little ones, 22 years later, and I'm still a mom, but like I said at the beginning, I'm in a different place than what I was when I had children or when I got married. What do you think about that, Viviana, and what are your suggestions?
So I know, I'm 47, but I tell everybody I'm 41. But just being in my 40s, I have changed. Because before, my kids are basketball players. So I felt like I had to be at every game. Just it doesn't matter how tired I was. I just felt like I needed to be there. And I would just say in the last couple of years, I have understood that I don't have to be at every game. And I've had a conversation with my son, especially my younger one, to say, hey, like, I'm not going to make it because I'm doing this or whatever it may be. Right. So I think it's that, to be okay in my skin, to say, I don't have to be there. I don't have to say yes to every event. There's been times as well, within my co-parenting, we will discuss, you'll go to this trip, I'll go to this trip, or vice versa. But I think it's extremely important to give myself some time to myself and find time to do some me time. And sometimes going to a basketball is me time because I'm going by myself. I don't have to do the transportation. I don't have to get him there, an hour, 2 hours before. I'm strictly just coming in as a fan. And so I've learned to enjoy that as well. And I've learned to love the sport. So I think we just kind of have to, I don't think that we should see it as a task. It's just that I'm going to get up today. My son has a game at 2. Am I in the space to go? And I think it's okay as long as maybe you can communicate to your child, like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Or even if we go on vacation, I might have some times where I might go away for the weekend just by myself. There might be some other times that we might do things together. So I think it's communication to say, hey, like, I'm really tired this week and I just need some alone time or whatever it may be. I think I have it kind of pretty good, even though of course divorce is a terrible thing. But because we have joint custody, he's with me, half of the time. So I get to have some of that time, and I don't take it for granted, definitely. What about for you when you're like in the, because I think that's the biggest part, right? Like, I remember during COVID, I had a friend. She was like, "We're all home. Like, the kids are home. My husband's home. Is like, it's overwhelming, you know." So, like, what is it like when you're juggling different sports or different events, and then you, and then your husband?
Yeah, I think, like you said, communication, it's huge. I think for me at the beginning, when my boys do baseball, so we're a baseball family, and we've been doing baseball since the boys were 5. So the boys started doing, rec ball and then travel ball since they were 5 years old. So at the beginning, I was very immersed in that world, and it was like the uniforms and the practice, and they gotta eat, and they gotta have snacks, and we're going to spend the whole day there, and we got to prepare for this. So every time there was a game, or every time there was something going on, it was very overwhelming. So it was not like I could even enjoy the game. And then as the boys got a little bit older, it became this more bonding thing between their dad and them, because I did everything. So it was a time for my husband to get more involved and to start enjoying more time with the boys. And it was this lingo or code, that they only them could speak, and it was like, okay, so I just became a fan. And yes, while I still had to do breakfast and, but my husband became in charge of the uniforms and the cleats and the bags, and I had nothing to do with that. And, okay, did everybody eat? Did everybody shower, brush your teeth? Okay, get your uniforms on and I'll meet you there. So it became that. So as far as, the sport thing, and you said the co-parenting, even though you are in the same household, it's kind of finding a way to get things done. Now, with me personally, for example, with my poetry, my family doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily as involved in that, but it's me coming home and sharing, what I did. My boys, are now grown, of course, they're 22, my daughter's 26. But every time I get home, if there was an event, if there was a show, my boys always ask me, how was your show? How did it go? Even if they don't care about poetry, they don't care for poetry, but they ask me, how did it make me feel? How was my show? Did I enjoy myself? And it is important for me to let them know that that is something that I do enjoy, that it is something that kind of lets me burn off steam, and it relaxes me, that I enjoy it. Every time I get a chance, I can convince them, because you know how it is, kids nowadays, they don't hang out with mom or dad because, it's not cool. So I try to drag them, through a show here or there, or a competition or something that I tell them that is important to me. And it means the world every time, they say, we'll be there, or, we'll join you or whatever. But I think that's important communication, so that they know that, yes, this is important to you, and I'm making the time to be there for you, but also this is important to me, and I would love for you to make the time to be there for me. So having those conversations, and like you said, not feeling guilty about doing things, for yourself, because again, being a mommy, we give, that's kind of what's ingrained in our brains. We give, we give, we give. And if you take, okay, am I taking away from them? No, you're taking to kind of supplement everything that you give as well. So, like, I don't feel bad once a month I go get my nails and my toes done, and I tell myself, oh, I got to have my nails done because of work, and my nails got to look good because of work. But, that's also my silent 2 hours with me, and making myself feel good about one thing about me. So that's the one thing I never compromise on. I get my nails done no matter what happens. once a month.
I love it. I think that's awesome. And your daughter does poetry, right?
She did dabble a little bit. Her life, of course, being a new mommy and kind of trying to navigate, her life. It's been a little difficult, but my daughter is very artistic. She has a beautiful voice. She used to sing when she was in middle school, and in high school she was in the school choir for many years. And she has a beautiful voice, but she doesn't like to sing anymore. And she is a brilliant writer, and she's good. She's good. It's like for the longest when I started bringing her out to open mics with me, they were like, "Oh, little Maddie," and it was like she sounds nothing like me. She sounds nothing like me, and she has her own opinion, her own voice, and she's a really good writer. So I'm hoping that when life comes down a little bit for her, that she can find her voice again and kind of go out there, because she's really good.
Yeah, I think I want to say maybe I heard her once, maybe at an event. I'm not sure, maybe just on the side. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, so like, tackling household stuff, right? It could be a challenge. So this other scenario is, and I'm sure this applies to you, Maddie, because I'm assuming that you kind of like are in charge of finances, right? So I know, no? Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me finish the question. So if you have a household where maybe sometimes one spouse is the one that's in charge of finances and the other spouse is not in the loop as to what's going on, that could be conflicting.
Mhm.
I know when I've had to share my finances when I was married, I know there's different methods of doing finances in a household. For us, we used to just put everything in a pot, pretty much. And then once everything went into the pot, then I got a little percentage for me to do whatever I wanted to, and he got another percentage for what he wanted to, or whatever. But I'm sure it could be frustrating sometimes because I've had conversations with people that they're like, the man will say, I just give my wife everything. She just kind of handles everything. I just give her all the money and she just gets everything paid and whatever. But then I've also have heard scenarios where one of the spouses is not in the loop, right? So how would you handle a situation like that? And tell us a little bit about how you do it. Because because you're in finance, I would say Maddie handles the money in the house.
It's wild because believe it or not, like at the beginning of our marriage, like it was all him. Like I had nothing to do with anything. I worked and I make sure that my car had, well, that I had a metro card back in the days, because I was in New York, so I didn't drive. I didn't have a driver's license, so I just needed to make sure that I could take the bus. Then the baby came along, and it was like, okay, the babysitter paid for whatever. So he handled mostly everything. And I remember when he said, okay, we're gonna buy a house, and I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? And he's like, okay, we got to come up with this money, this much for the down payment, and that is going to go in this pot or whatever. So all I did was, put money in there when I could, and try to save money. However, so if everything, I was I followed his lead. And I remember it wasn't until we moved here to Virginia, and I actually started working at the bank, that I started kind of wanting to understand what's going on. Okay, how do we run the bank account? Because before, it's not that I was spoiled, but if I wanted to go to the supermarket, I went to the supermarket. Okay, I'm gonna go grocery shopping. So he knew that I was gonna spend $100, $200 grocery shopping. Okay, I need $200 to buy clothes for the kids, and I will take the two. But I didn't really like
That
look
is
at the bank
spoiled, by the
account.
way.
Yes, I was. I'm sorry. So, you know, so it was like, it's not like I did it every day, but when I had to do it, it was like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I would communicate and I would just go and do it. So it wasn't until again, I started working at the bank, that I was like, okay, so, I'm going to manage the bank account, and this is what goes in, this is what goes out. This is what it takes to pay the bills and things like that. So it took me a little while to kind of become hands on. And now it's like we do have, the the joint account, but he also has his account, I have my account, and I'm joined on his, we're joined on everything, but we understand, okay, this account is for this purpose, this account is for that purpose. If I need you to, okay, and again, communicate. But I think that allowed me to become a little bit more independent, and I would definitely suggest to anybody, nothing wrong with having joint ventures, whether it is bank accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, or whatever. You need those things if you are married, but also you need to have your own, because I can't even begin to tell you how many people, even right now, I have a client, she is in her 70s and her husband just passed away, and she was like sharing with me, she's like, Maddie, I have a notebook and I paid 3 bills and I put it in my notebook. I wrote the check, I put a stamp, and I mailed them. And I feel so responsible. And it was crazy to hear a 70-year-old, in 2025 tell me that this is the first time that she has done this for herself. So I think sometimes we take little things for granted, but my advice to anybody that is getting married, that is joining their finances, yes, have your joint finances, but always have your own thing as well, and understand how everything works, because you cannot make something work together if you cannot make it work individually first.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Because I've had people say, especially after you've been married for a long time and the one spouse has been taking care of everything, and now they're not here anymore. Like, you don't know how to
Mhm.
write a check, you don't know how to do any of these things. My gosh, yeah. So it could be discouraging, because then who do you go to kind of help you with those transactions? So it could be it's kind of like you're setting yourself up for challenges if we don't know. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes whether you're in a single household or with somebody else, just kind of being abreast, even if you might not handle everything, but just kind of knowing a little bit about the situation. It's good to know. So, like, if you get your grass cut, you should still kind of know, they come every 2 weeks, once a week, what's their
Mhm.
contact information? Because in the event that that person's no longer there, or they go out of town, or this person comes and, they want to get paid, you kind of want to know, be in the loop of things. I know sometimes I think I had a scenario one time where, they were just kind of, they had the bill under somebody's name, but then it changed, and like the wife knew but the husband didn't know, so it can get kind of crazy. So I would suggest, and you can speak what you think, Maddie, but I would say, do it every so often. I think you've said this before, every so often, just kind of go over the finances together. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what your advice was before?
Yeah, it's and I say this to everybody, whether you're single or married, at least once a year or every other year, because we all know life changes, and your life can change in the blink of an eye, and you can start the year with this plan, and you can start doing this, and then the end of the year comes, and you're like, wait, my life has changed completely, and I was not able to keep up with the plan that I set up on day one. So that's life, and that's what happens. But at least every year, every other year, take some time to kind of review your finances, whether it is review your subscriptions that you have coming out of your bank account, kind of see what you guys are paying, not too long ago, probably 6 months ago, I sat down and I was like, okay, let me look at all these, 299, 199, 999 that I have coming out of, Apple and this and that. And I can't even tell you how many of those things I was like, I've been paying for that. But you don't notice, because it's like, okay, 299, 199. And then you remember signing up for one thing, but then you have 10 and you're like, okay, how did I get to 10? And sometimes you don't even know. So, it is important to kind of be aware of everything that is coming out of your account, everything that happens. Like you said, if you have any payees, any bills, kind of be aware of stuff. Sometimes it's very easy, to again fall into this is what he does, or this is what she does, or she handles this, or he handles that, and not know exactly what's going on. Because I'm guilty of it. There's certain things that, okay, he handles and I won't ask, and then I'm asking and I'm like, what's been going on, So again, nobody's perfect, but that's what I'm saying, definitely be aware of what's going on, and double check with your account. Like we talked about subscriptions too, whether it is a magazine or a membership, are you utilizing that membership? Are you maximizing it? Do you have to have the gold membership if you only go once a month to the gym? You know what I'm saying? Or if you only go for special occasions or whatever, So things like that, you got to sit down and kind of review things, because again, the needs that you may have had when you put the plan in place may have changed.
Mm-hmm. And I think not just the finances, but also like medical stuff and academic stuff. So I know sometimes, I've seen how women get upset because the dad doesn't know, the baby's pediatrician or their name or where they're located. But I think it's good to kind of know that information. Like you said, nobody's perfect, but that would be part of reviewing things once a year or every 2 years, because if there is an emergency, you kind of know what you should know what the allergies are, who the doctor is, things that happen. So that for the medical piece and also the academic piece, because if something comes up, you want to at least know something about it. You might not know all the details. It's kind of like, I guess it makes me think of a project manager, right? So the project manager may kind of know all the details, but then whoever is underneath the project manager needs to know a little bit about it. So I would say maybe during pillow talk times, those would be a great times to kind of discuss certain things that happen.
True, true. Want to take some time to say hello to Cherry Pizarro. She said, "Good evening, ladies," and then she said, "This is absolutely true financial facts. When my husband passed away, our home was VA funded. I didn't qualify for the mortgage on my own, and yes, I was on the deed, and I was able to sell the home. But again, going back to knowing, being aware of what's going on, what's happening in case you have to step in. I tell everybody, even if you are doing things on your own, write things down, put things together. If you have a safety deposit box, if you have, write down your instructions and, things like that, so that you are aware. Because you never know. I remember, when my twins were born, because they were preemies and they had so many medical complications, going on. I know my husband had no clue what was going on, because he had 3 jobs. He had to work 3 jobs so that I could stay home and take care of the kids. So, but I did have my notebook with all the medications, and the kids have to go to this doctor, and there was a calendar, and there was this and there was that, because we had to, because again, there were 3 kids, only one of me, and then he had 3 jobs. So it was like, okay, what are we doing? So we needed a lot of help from outside, to kind of get our household going. So, whatever may work for you, but it is important. Again, also as I keep, getting older, and I see it on my clients and the people that I see every day. I always say we plan for everything and we never plan for dying. We don't plan, to, okay, what's going to happen to my kids, if I die, or what's going to happen to my family, what's going to happen with my assets, if I pass away. Like Cherry said, she didn't know, what was going on or the ins and outs. She just knew that she had a home and she was in the deed, and then she was surprised like this. So, be aware of what's going on, so that way things don't catch you off guard. A lot of people, one of the things that people talk a lot is, putting all their assets under the name of a trust. you know so a trust is like forming an entity and kind of putting on paper how you want to divide everything, and kind of like, this is what's going to happen. It's kind of like a business plan. This is what's going to happen if something were to happen to me. And a lot of the times when you have a trust and you pass away, nobody can change the trust. Only you can change the trust while you're alive. So a lot of people pay a lot of money because this is very expensive. It's done by an attorney. It's a legal document that gets drawn, and usually you pay thousands of dollars for this document. So the mistake that a lot of people do is that they go to the attorney and they draw the trust, but then they don't transfer their assets to the name of the trust. A lot of the attorneys don't tell you. They just tell you, okay, yeah, this is your trust. This is your document. Here's your binder. Pay me $5,000 and here's your document. Yeah, but they don't tell you that you have to, go to the city and put your house under the name of the trust. Go to the bank and put your account under the name of the trust. Go to DMV and put your cars under the name of the, it's like there's so many things, but they don't tell you to transfer the assets under the name of the trust. That you have a trust means nothing if you didn't put the assets under the name of your trust. So, it's time consuming, but it's like what I tell everybody. Okay, do you do that ahead of time? To save your kids and your family, your loved ones time, or do you leave it up to them to take care of everything afterwards? So again, just communication, planning, thinking ahead. And there's one thing we all know: we're gonna die because we are alive.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Very true point. Very, very good information, Maddie. Um, you want to do the next one?
Okay, so the next one is friendship shifts. So we all know that our lives change. Sometimes we are lucky enough that we get to keep those friends that we met when we were tiny, and get to have a relationship with them even 30, 40, 50 years later. I have some friends like that, but I've also been the victim of losing friendships. Those friendship breakups, they hurt, almost the same as relationship, romantic relationships do. But how do you handle, Viviana, that change? Has that happened to you? Do you see it happen, around you often, where you could have a friendship and then all of a sudden you become a family person and everything changes?
Yeah, I think it's happened to a lot of us, especially when, like for me, I don't live in the city where I went to high school, or where I went to college. So I see people that are here local where I live, and they're still here. They went to school here, so I've noticed that they kind of keep friendships. I really haven't, just because I don't live where I was raised. I just have like a, and I wasn't like a big time. I'm an introvert, really, at heart. So I had friends, but it was just a handful of friends. And even to this day, I still talk to one friend that I went to high school with, but there was a period of time that we didn't talk. Um, uh, I don't even remember what happened, but we talk now. So like my oldest son has a great relationship with her and her husband. So anytime he goes up to New York or New Jersey, like he stays with them, and stuff like that. But I just think we evolve and we change, and priorities change. Like I can't, my time is valuable, right? And so if you're doing things that are not aligned with me, then I can't hang out with you, right? That's one reason. And then sometimes just life takes over. You get married, you have kids, you have your own business, or you're traveling, or you're taking care of your elderly parents. So it's a lot of stuff that could potentially be happening. One of my friends, she lives in Oklahoma, and I went to see her this past summer, but I had not seen her in a long time, and we talk on the phone random times. There's times that we talk, every other day, and then we'll go like a month or two and we won't talk. But I would label that as like true friendship, because we pick it up right where we left off. My friend in New Jersey as well, whenever I see her, I might not see her or talk to her a lot, but whenever we have some type of communication, we love on each other, and our children and our family. So I think it's okay to evolve, and to not to feel guilty, right? That guilt to say, I've evolved, like I don't live in Colombia anymore, so it's hard to keep a friendship with you. And then sometimes, there's different levels of friendships, different purposes of
Mhm.
friendships. Like Maddie, you and I have a friendship that we don't talk all the time, but there's times that you might text me something or I might text you something. And so we feel the support and the love for each other versus somebody that I might talk to every day and she's my friend. So I just think that to be okay to establish that friendship, and it may evolve and it may change and you might disconnect for a while and you might come back and reconnect or maybe never. But I just think that as long as you know that you did the right thing for the friendship or for that individual, then it's okay. And then sometimes too, there has been scenarios where maybe you had some beef with someone but then they passed away, so you don't have access to them anymore, right? You
Mhm.
can you could still find peace within you, to find closure in that friendship. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a very friendly person. I make, friends, wherever I go. I love cultivating relationships, and I do have friends that that I've known like all my life. Like you said, I don't live in the city where I graduated from either. But I do have a handful of friends that I still keep in contact with. The relationship might not be as close as it was at one point, but like for example, like now one of the girls is turning 50, so like we are all at that stage where like we're like it's like a domino effect. Okay, it's my birthday, your birthday, like that. I'm actually going to her birthday party in New York in a couple of weeks, so I'm excited about that because again, I don't get to see them as often, and if I see them, it's like I see one or two, but I don't see everybody together. So this is going to be a great time to be able to see everybody together, and I think the last time that I saw everybody together was when again, one of the girls was getting married about 3-4 years ago, and we all got together. So again, another opportunity to be together. But like you said, I think in friendship, every friendship, I think every relationship period fills in a gap in your life, or void, or has a space, a particular space. And like you said, it is important to kind of know what space is designated for that person and how you fulfill and cultivate that. Like you said, there's some friendships that, they need that conversation every day. If we don't talk every day, what did I do to you? Like when my mom was alive, it's like 2 days, will go by and she will call me, "Are you mad at me? Because we haven't spoken in 2 days. What happened?" And it's like, "Mom," so it's like those kind of relationships. Okay, do we need to talk every day, or can we have? And then I have my brother who, again, it's just me and him after my other brother passed, and it's like we don't talk for like weeks. Like we might text or whatever, but then we do talk and we spend 2 hours on the phone. So that's kind of how my relationship, with my brother is. We don't talk often, but when we do talk, it's like 2 hours, but we text often. So again, it's like kind of knowing how you cultivate those relationships. And I think also it's very important. I'm one of those people that I'm not afraid to tell people how I feel. Again, I'm very expressive. I will tell you that I love you. I will tell you that I care for you. My love language is touch. So sometimes, I have to kind of hold myself back because I touch people and not everybody likes to be touched. But, I'm the kind of person that I will hold hand. I'm talking to you. I will touch your shoulder. I will touch your leg, and sometimes I have to remind myself, that not everybody is like me. But saying that to say I'm not afraid to show the people that I love them. And I think it's important for them to know, because I think also that helps you preserve those relationships.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Um, yeah, I think it's important to, as we evolve, it's important to protect your space. And
Mhm.
if it's something that's not going to be healthy, then, or, I always ask God to reveal myself and other people to me, right? And so I just feel that protection. And there's been times that I've been in friendship, relationship, and maybe it ended up not being healthy, but I saw it as a lesson learned, right? Like I gained something out of that that experience. So I think that happens as well. We meet people, you know how they say for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So I would say that that just kind of describes how friendships and relationships are just in general. You know, it's hard to get rid of my sons, but you know, those are some relationships that I'm okay with, you know, them being permanent. And then if, you know, they get on my nerves, I just, you know, couple of minutes or hours, you know, we just kind of give ourselves space. But yeah, I think it's just being okay with who you are, being confident. You know, with social media, being so active and so persistent and so influential on young people, or you know, people our age as well, and just everybody. You know, which is another question that we're going to have, like the comparison of things, right? Social media sells us that, you know, oh my God, Viviana has it going on. She has her own business. She has two kids, her mother, her grandmother, but they don't realize that I'm over here. Like you guys could tell me in my office today, and it's a Sunday, you know. So like I'm working on a Sunday. So sometimes we get caught up in seeing how things look, but not understanding the reality and the sacrifices, or maybe the hurt. There's a young lady that I talked to last week, and she dresses very flashy, and she said, you know, I dress like this so that people don't really get to see who really I am, because inside I'm different than what I show on the outside.
Mhm.
um, so it was just interesting to kind of hear that comment, and I would love to hear what you think about that, because she's I think she was in a very vulnerable moment, and she just really spoke about herself, and I thought it was awesome that she did, right? But then it left it left me lingering in my brain what that really meant, because like for me, I think like I don't get caught up in what I'm wearing too much. I'm really like a plain Jane. Just this like the last 2 years, maybe I started wearing like different type of earrings, but I could wear the same jewelry all the time, and I don't think what I wear, my accessories, tell you who I am. I don't know. What do you think?
I think all of that is it's a form of self-expression. You know, you do say often that you are an introvert. You know that you are, you know, like you probably go somewhere and you could be the fly on the wall, you know, because you don't want to stand out, or people to notice you. So I think it has a lot to do, you know, with our personality and how you express yourself, you know. I for a long time I always dress only in black. For a very long time, I want to say until I was probably in my early 20s, it was, you know, black, dark colors, and everything had, you know, black in it, you know. But I always liked colors. I just didn't know, or I would probably say didn't feel confident, you know, kind of like mixing the colors or bringing color up. And then it wasn't until I, you know, kind of started dressing up for work every day, you know, that I started incorporating, like changing the way that I dress. And then colors became important because, you know, again, that's me, that's my personality. I'm always smiling, you know. Funny that you said that that person told you that she dresses like that, so people don't know what she's going through, or who she really is. I'm always smiling. I could be like, my world could be ending, and I'm always smiling. I smile because that's me. When I'm nervous, I smile. When I'm worried, I smile. When I'm scared, I smile. I always smile. So I'm either smiling or crying. So one or the other. So yeah, I think, you know, yeah, so it's just a form of self-expression. So for me, you know, it's been necklaces and earrings, and matching, and the bigger the better, you know. Like I do remember that, you know, when I was growing up, I had like, and the hoops were, you know, in style. I had them hoops that I had, like thick ones that like literally they would pull my ears like so big, like I couldn't, if I had to run, I had to hold them because I couldn't run, you know, because they were so heavy. So I always like the big earrings, like call attention, you know, the necklaces and jewelry and stuff like that. I always love all that kind of stuff. So as I've gotten older, it's just gotten like more serious, you know. So I think I said it, you know, I've owned at least, you know, I have at least 100, anywhere from 150 to 200 necklaces. That there's a lot of them that I haven't worn in a long time. Yeah, I have a hard time getting rid of them, because then it's like, oh man, I should have kept that necklace, you know. So but I love, you know, like the accent. I love the colors, you know. I could wear a black dress and then I could put a flashy necklace on it, and then, you know, again, I'm dressed in black but I'm still expressing myself. So I do use, you know, the way that I dress, the way that I do my hair, so, as self-expression. I love poetry. That's why I love my poetry, because when I do events or when I do competitions that I know that I'm just going to perform, I dress a little bit more out there than what I would for my regular. And it's because I'm performing, I'm putting on a show. So it's like, okay, how can I push it? How can I look a little bit different? You know, how can I bring my personal style? So I do love it. And I do that with my hair. I do that with my jewelry. I do that, you know, so.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think sometimes I feel the same way that you were saying. Like I don't know what to do with it. Like the what color goes with what color, and so then I'm like, oh my god, I don't want it to look crazy. So I just kind of stick to the basics. But I do love the change of earrings, jewelry. It just I think you could wear like a black dress, but if you just accessorize it different or make your hair different, you get like a whole new look.
Yeah, you gotta just start small. So yeah, the earrings is a good change, and then you might
Yeah.
add the necklace, and next thing you know, you add the shoes, and then, you know, next thing you know, we're wearing, you know, a whole outfit. So yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah, because like this year I went to like an African party, so I bought the whole shemang, everything. Like I was looking African, like, and I loved it because it was like so bright and, ooh, it was nice. It was nice and nice and sexy and just kind of different. I loved it. It was nice.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I love that. So our other scenario, and then we'll probably wrap it up. But I just want to say hello to Cherry again, and John Jairo Morales is also watching, and Lily Matos, Nikauri Jackson, Valentina is also watching. And then sometimes, like, if you guys are watching us, we love it when you place comments or just say hello, because then we can really give you a shout out. Because if you're just watching, sometimes we can't tell. Yeah. So that's why I was reading a note, but yeah. All right. So our last scenario goes like this. Side hustle. The strain of the side hustles, right? So if we were to start a small business and it becomes, if it's a hustle, but sometimes it will take a strain on you, your family, your household. Do you quit? Do you push through? Do you turn it into full time? Do you continue to, like, what do you do with that challenge? What would you suggest?
I think it all depends, because, you know, like you said, it's a high. Is it a side hustle? Are you trying to make it something permanent? Is it something that you do to kind of give you something else to do, or is it to supplement your income? You know, so I think there's a lot of things that you kind of have to like lay out and then see if it's worth fighting for, if that makes any sense. So again, for me personally, do I love poetry? I love poetry. Does poetry pay my bills? It does not. It is something that I do for fun, to burn, you know, like I said, steam. That I feel like I have things that I want to say that I would love for people to hear me say. Yes. And as many times I could put myself out there so other people can hear me, write my book, write books, you know, be published here and there, whatever. I will do whatever, you know, whatever it takes, whatever I can do. Can he pay my bills? Yes, if you put in the right time. Do I have the time right now to be able to do it, or the capacity financially to be able to do that? No, I don't. You know, and then it would require like a huge change that right now at this moment I'm not ready to make. But having a side hustle, if you know that it is going to pay your bills, that it could grow into something. Again, it's about communication. Your partner, is your partner willing to help, willing to cover you when something, when you can fully cover, how can we do this? I'm going to give you 6 months so that you can go full out and do whatever you got to do. And I'm going to try to help a little bit extra. So, again, it's about communications and what you need to do to prepare yourself. I think also a lot of the times when we do go into those side hustles, we lead with emotion, and you cannot lead with emotion. Yes, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get done. But realistically, what is it going to take? Can I do that? If I'm going to get 6 months to dedicate myself full out into this, can I do it in 6 months? Do I need more time? Can we split it differently so that I can, instead of 6 months, it's going to take me a year? How is that going to look like? So I think when it's going to be a side thing, it takes a lot more planning if you are serious about it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. I think it's, again, it's evaluating the situation and timing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this a good time for me to do this? I'm gonna have surgery in a couple of months, or my spouse is gonna have surgery in a couple of months, or my slow months are in December, because it's really a financial decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
The finance, so we have to make sure that the finances continue. Like, I know a couple, they were both making fairly good money. They didn't have any children, so they started living off of one income, and they saved the rest of the money. And then I think somebody went to school or something like that with that money. Then you have different scenarios, like you said, that it's a time frame, 6 months or a year. There's another couple that I know, he was doing that. He was selling insurance. Wife was in the bank finance industry, so she kind of was holding it down until he got himself together. But he grinded the entire time, and to this day, she's still in the banking industry. He's doing insurance for himself, so it worked out. And I think too, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we know the task. Like, for me with tutoring, right? Like, I know how to tutor. But then when you actually get into the grind of running the business, like the bank account, the tax ID number, uh, the logging of everything, the QuickBooks, the accounting piece, the marketing piece, the networking. Now you're coming home at 7 o'clock, twice a week, or maybe 8 o'clock twice a week. So now you're taking time away from your family. So all of those things, is the pulling of deciding, hey, and like you said, hey, let's look at it. Even though this is a 6 month plan, let's look at it after 2 months and just kind of do a check in. We're still going to do 6 months, but let's do a check in every 2 months, so I can kind of see, like, maybe I was making $10, but now I'm getting $20, and then 30, like, it's going up. So maybe it didn't go where we wanted it to go in 6 months, but it's going up. So let's increase it
Mm-hmm.
from 6 months to a year. So I think is the data, behind our actions, with so that you can determine if that hustle, is worth turning it into a full-time thing, or for it to not be a hustle anymore. So I think it's that.
Yeah, being realistic, because again, oh yes, I want to put a restaurant, okay, and I could cook, and I could, okay, what does it take? If it's a side hustle, okay, you got to work from 9 to 5. Who's gonna take care of the kids so that you can go put in the work here, and so it's like you got to be realistic about what is needed. And I think sometimes, again, when we lead with passion or with the heart, it's like we fill in the gaps with a lot of hope, and not the reality of things. And then when we try to jump into something, it doesn't work, because it's like, okay, I didn't think about this, the right, I didn't go about it the right way. So I think, sometimes, we do need an outside person to kind of look in and say, okay, do you think about this? Do you think about that? I always tell everybody, when you're opening, when they're opening that bank account for the business, do you do a financial planning? And a financial plan is not something that a lot of people do. But is something that I do recommend, especially if you don't know where you're going, because it forces you to think about where you want to go, you know? So it's not, yes, okay, we open a business because we want to make money, but okay, there's a lot of room in between, you know? So what are we doing in between? I'm starting and I'm making money, you know? What do we do in between? So I think that financial planning allows you to kind of plan, what I like about it is that it allows you to do a plan A and a plan B, you know, and if this doesn't work, okay, what can we do? And of course, you know, life is life, and sometimes you can't plan too much for life, but if sometimes the scenarios do happen, you know, that you did plan for, and you know, you have a backup plan, so you prepared. So I think, you know, that's also very important, you know, just think about things, you know, not wish bad on yourself that everything is going to go bad, but if something bad happens, you know, how can I handle that? So
Yeah, that's very true. Because I know sometimes, like, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this. But then I sit down and I'm like, that's not smart, to do that. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's just the emotion of, like, like the feel good moments. But if you really think about it, it's not smart. So I think it's having those thoughts that are important. But thank you for all the advice you gave us, Maddie, today. And, our audience, just so that you guys know, we're talking and we're giving you this advice, but we're talking to ourselves at the same time. So don't forget that. Full disclosure. So I think this is great because, sometimes we give ourselves a really hard time about our decisions and the problems that we're having. But I tell my children all the time, like, solutions, not problems. Like, let's go. Don't get stuck in that thing. Like, we are going to fail. Things are not going to map out the way that we expected them to map out. So now what? Make the adjustment. So, yeah, so that was amazing. Thank you, Maddie, so much. And we're ready for your poem.
oh, thank you. So, you know, it's like you said, it's so funny because we're here talking and we're talking about things that are happening or whatever. And I think sometimes, you know, it's talking to ourselves, you know, saying it out loud so that it makes sense. And it could be sometimes things that, yeah, I'm not answering this question, but you know, that is something that I needed to hear. Tell myself, I'm a big believer of, affirmations, and that your words will dictate how you feel, and the things that you do and whether you get up or not. So always speak positiveness into your life, into the mirror, say it out loud, because sometimes we do need to hear it, even if it comes from our own selves. Again, I have no clue what I was going to read today. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? So, we're talking about the power of womanhood, of the things, yes, relationships and all these things and how they affect us. And at the end of the day, our show is called Que Pasa, Mujer. So I'm going to go with an oldie, and it's in my book, A Vision of She. So if you haven't bought my book, buy my book, A Vision of She. You can find it in Amazon, or you can find me on social media. I'm Madeline Garcia on Facebook, MaddieG98 on Instagram. Shoot me a message and I will mail you a copy of my book. Okay. Again, this is one of my favorite poems in the book, and to perform this poem was born out of a song that my brother had sent to me. My brother, who passed away, he was not big about showing his feelings. Again, back to what we were saying, expressing how you feel, but he would send me little notes or send me little messages to tell me that he loved me all the time. And I've always struggled with, self-love, loving myself. And the song is called Bonita, which means beautiful in Spanish. And he sent me the song, and that's where the poem came from. So the song goes something like, if no one has ever told you, let me be the first. In case you have forgotten, let me remind you again, but never ever forget that you are beautiful, bonita. Like a princess, you are beautiful. God made you beautiful, and there's nothing missing. Si nadie te lo ha dicho, yo te lo diré. Si acaso lo olvidaste, te lo recordaré. Pero por favor, nunca lo dudes y no lo olvides jamás, jamás, jamás. Eres bonita, 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 como una princesa bonita, bonita. Así Dios te hizo bonita, bonita. No te hace falta nada, no te hace falta nada. Look at her. She is the reflection of perfection, the perfect explanation of what beautiful is, how she should always feel. Yet her mirror retaliates, reminding her not to forget what she ate yesterday. The minute that pleasure was added into the equation, eating became an ingestion of insecurities and self-doubt, all piled on her plate, accompanied by self-hate, finding their way to her hips, her thighs, her curves. Get a hold of yourself, she says. How much could you have gained from the joy included in every bite? Letting self-deprecation become an aftertaste, she repeats to herself, a little bit extra doesn't make me any less. A longer shirt will have to do for today. Her hair, her beautiful curls adorning her face, curls with a mind of their own, curls full of stories waiting to be told strong. Yet her mirror stares back with a sinister smirk, getting her fingers stuck under her waist, hoping that her self-confidence drowns or goes away. Breathe again. Your curls represent information, a carbon copy of your DNA, coil and rough like the road first traveled by your predecessors, your ancestors who had to get creative and fight so that you could inherit the right to survive, so that today you could represent them with pride. So fluff it up. Your natural hair should not be adorned by shame. It shouldn't even be a factor in the size of the smile that you give to the world each day. Beauty is a feeling that we get to know, and once we do, we own. The secret to preservation is to hold on and never let it go. Bonita, empty your pockets and shake out the words. Shake out the words you unconsciously hang on to self-mutilate. Don't pay attention to what others have to say, and when the mirror starts acting up, do not be afraid. You see, we are responsible for the images transposed from the mirror into the brain. And when we don't like what we see, we possess the power to change until the image being seen and the one being relayed become one of the same. But it will start with those first words that you utter about yourself. So before you open your mouth, never forget, you see, God made you, and God makes no mistakes. Eres bonita, 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 como una princesa bonita, bonita. Así Dios te hizo bonita, bonita. No te hace falta nada, no te hace falta nada. Eres bonita.
Thank you. I do remember that one. I like it. That's when I found out that you know how to sing. When you did
I
it,
don't know how to sing, but thank you.
That's how I knew you had some extra talents I wasn't aware of. Well, I hope you have an amazing week. I hope our audience and our producer Mark has an amazing week.
On purpose?
On purpose, as Tangi would say. And I did talk to Tangi. She said she's going to come to the next meetup in Hampton. So I'm saying it over here in Que Pasa Mujer, and I hope she's watching. If not, I'm going to forward it to her. But again, thanks again for all of your feedback today and your time. Greatly appreciate it. And we will see you guys next Sunday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. Gracias.
Thank you. Keep singing.
Mark.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.